Today, we're diving into the absolutely incredible story of NVIDIA. We're going to look at how a company that, basically just started out making video games look cooler somehow ended up building the very engine that powers the entire global AI revolution. Let's get right into it. Okay, so first, let's just try to wrap our heads around the scale here. By late 2025, NVIDIA's market cap exploded to a mind-boggling $4.58 trillion. I mean, think about that. That puts it right up there with the most valuable companies on the entire planet. This isn't just a success story. It's a complete reshaping of the tech industry as we know it. So that's the big question, right? How on earth did this happen? How did a company known for making games look pretty become the one thing, the one piece of hardware that you absolutely need to build the future of intelligence itself? Well, that's the journey we're about to take. To get that answer, we have to go way back to the beginning. And, like so many great Silicon Valley stories, this one doesn't start in a fancy boardroom. Nope, it starts in a Denny's. So, back in 1993, you have three engineers, Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, and Curtis Preem, and they meet up at this diner with this big idea. But here's the wild part. Their vision had nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with AI. It was all about solving a very specific problem, making 3D graphics on a PC finally look realistic. See, back in the early 90s, the brain of your computer, the CPU, was a jack of all trades. It did everything, but it really struggled with the huge number of calculations you needed for good 3D gaming. The NVIDIA founders, they saw an opening to build a specialized chip, a graphics processing unit, or GPU, that could do just that one thing, but do it incredibly well. And for years, that's exactly what NVIDIA did. They made awesome GPUs for gamers. But then, something shifted. They made a pivot, a strategic move that would unlock a potential that was way beyond anything they could have possibly imagined at that Denny's. So, here's the best way to think about the difference. A CPU is like a master chef. Super smart, handling one complex task at a time, step by step. A GPU, on the other hand, is like an entire army of line cooks, all chopping thousands of vegetables at the exact same time. That's called parallel processing, and that idea is the key to this whole story. And this shift, it happened in stages. In '99, they dropped the first real GPU, the GeForce 256, huge for gaming. But the real game changer, the big one, came in 2006 with a software platform they called CUDA. Then, fast forward to 2012, and that move pays off big time when their GPUs are used to train a neural network called AlexNet, a moment that is now basically seen as the big bang of modern AI. So, what is this CUDA thing? Well, you can think of it as the secret sauce. It's basically a software layer, a kind of universal translator that lets developers tell that army of processors inside the GPU to do things other than just make pretty pictures. Before CUDA, all that GPU power was just trapped. It could only do graphics. CUDA was the key that unlocked the cage. And all of a sudden, scientists, researchers, and eventually, AI developers could use all that parallel processing power for their own stuff. It basically turned every high-end graphics card into a mini supercomputer. And that transformation, that's what put NVIDIA in the perfect position to become the absolute can't-live-without-it foundation of the AI revolution that was about to take over the world. You see, training modern AI means you have to feed it just unimaginable amounts of data. A normal CPU doing things one by one would take forever. But a GPU, that army of cooks processing thousands of things at once, it was the perfect tool for the job. NVIDIA had built the ultimate hardware for the AI boom, almost by accident. But, it wasn't a complete accident. NVIDIA saw what was coming, at least a little bit. In 2016, way before ChatGPT was a thing anybody had ever heard of, CEO Jensen Huang personally delivered their very first AI supercomputer in a box to a tiny research lab. That lab, it was called OpenAI. Now, that was a very clear, very powerful bet on the future. And let me tell you, that bet paid off. It paid off in the most spectacular way possible. The demand for their chips just went vertical, and NVIDIA went from being a really successful tech company to a global empire. The numbers are just staggering. In one single year, NVIDIA's revenue more than doubled. It jumped from about $60 billion to over $130 billion. This wasn't just growth. This was an absolute gold rush, and NVIDIA was the one selling all the shovels. And if you want to know where that money came from, just look at this. A whopping 88% of their revenue now comes from their data center business. That's the chips that power AI. Gaming, the thing that started it all, that's now less than 10% of their business. The transformation was totally complete. And now their reach goes so far beyond just data centers in the cloud. NVIDIA's tech is right at the heart of self-driving cars, new drug discovery, financial modeling, advanced robotics, you name it. They are literally building the computational bedrock for dozens of modern industries. But you know what they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown. With this much success comes an immense amount of pressure. NVIDIA is sitting on top of the most important tech movement of our lifetime, and well, the top is a very difficult place to stay. There are a few major challenges on the horizon. First, their biggest customers, we're talking Google, Amazon, Microsoft, are turning into their biggest competitors, making their own AI chips. Second, geopolitical tensions have totally cut them off from the huge market in China, where their market share went from 95% to almost zero. And finally, when your value is in the trillions, any little stumble can have massive consequences. And so that leaves us with this final question. For years, NVIDIA basically built the stadium. They wrote the rules, and they were the only team on the field. But now the AI arms race is on. The other giants are building their own armies of chips. The question is no longer who will power the AI revolution. The question now is, for how much longer can NVIDIA's incredible reign as the undisputed king continue?